Many of the best games are the simplest. The only goal in Hyper Light Drifter is to kill the final boss, but it's behind a door. To open the door, the Drifter ventures into 4 areas, accomplishing 2 tasks in each, disabling 4 of 8 power sources and activating the beacon in front of which a boss maintains a vigil. This top-down approach to quest design is so satisfying and effective because your achievements connect directly to the ultimate goal. A Hyper Light Drifter's a Jedi with 6 guns, but commendable critters attempt to dispatch him anyway. During the tutorial, you chop some boxes and obtain your first gun, a little pistol with which to spam orcs until they die. After a man in pink armor abducts you while you're unconscious, you have the choice to fight frogs, toucans, or cats. The gameplay presents a fantastic character controller that's as simple as the goal. You move, slice, shoot, and dodge. At most, the game offers 3 more complex moves: slice then dodge, dodge then slice, and fat slice. There are grenades too. Fine. The most valuable skill, that's also the one with the highest learning curve, is chaining dodges in order to zip among and decapitate enemies. Call it drifting. A further strength of gameplay is that it handles guns well, because it doesn't allow you to forget they exist without making combat much harder for you. Unlike the cheese wheels in your breeze home, ammunition isn't a consumable you can afford to put out of sight and mind. As you fight a massive wave-by-wave battle, you need to recognize when to part with your precious full clip in order to receive as many as 5 free kills that could save your life. Chopping environmental or hostile entities is how to obtain ammo, but your clip is only so capacious, so during each fight, you must be flexible enough to know when to use what. Many reflex-intensive games are difficult, not because you have to be lightning, but because you have to be careful. 5 health notches aren't that much, because many enemy attacks are twofers. The game offers an initial maximum of 3 stimpaks to use at will, all of which nurse the Drifter to full health, so what's best is to wait until he's in agony to use them. Still, nothing works better than a dodge, and if you pay enough attention, you should be able to mind the shurikens, purple lasers, and fiery jars flying about a scene. Like a woman in an action movie that fails the Bechdel test, the game says, "Dodge this," and you have to say, "Okay." Reflex-intensive games benefit from perfect enemies, which Hyper Light Drifter also exhibits. Half their behavior is offering huge tells as to what they're about to do. Jedi have foresight, and that players can see incoming attacks makes me feel like a Jedi. If that's not enough to make you feel like one, then I hope deflecting enemies' projectiles and chopping rockets in half is good enough for you. Here's a brief list of excellent enemies. Puppies who charge at you and offer love bites, speedy shuriken frogs, bomb frogs, rocket men who are vulnerable to their own heat-seeking rockets, giant glass monsters who throw glass at you, moss giants that one-shot you by jumping on you, moving blocks that ruin your speedruns, warlock toucans, and others. They differ enough from each other such that you need to develop one strategy per enemy. This behavioral diversity offers a brilliant challenge because most of the time different enemies try to kill you simultaneously. The bosses are equally amazing because Heart Machine approaches their design the same way it approaches that of regular enemies. Each boss has huge tells for the moves in its moveset, allowing every gamer, baby, and grandma to learn its behavior with enough practice. Bosses are gargantuan enemies, having more health and dealing twofers more exclusively, but you have one major edge against the bosses. The enemies on the way to a boss prepare you for that boss, as many boss behaviors are amalgams of a dungeon's enemy behaviors. New Game Plus intensifies bosses further because it restricts you to 2 health notches so that you can't take any hits. It's brutal, but it's a lot of fun, and it's a great way to master the game, because once you start a standard game after completing New Game Plus, you feel like Rock Lee removing his leg weights. In terms of the world's design, the game encourages exploration in a few key ways. No matter how much importance you place on exploration, the slightest investment rewards more stimpaks than you can carry, and a major investment offers plenty of upgrade points among other collectibles. At worst, you'll run into lore and go elsewhere. Also, dungeons loop you back to their fast travel points several times so that you can take breathers to purchase upgrades. Not that you can teleport only among fast travel points, but if you're next to one, you can depend on an easy return trip. My favorite part of exploration is that you needn't play the game as much as I have to know where to find collectibles. I'm not going to spoil the technique verbally because showing some of this is bad enough, but mere attention to detail grants you most of the game's collectibles. While the game's almost word-free, I love chatting with the world's NPCs. Many of your interactions with them affect the map. On the outskirts of a dungeon, you meet someone who tells you about its boss and its boss's location, while the man in pink armor reveals the locations of a dungeon's power sources. By being abstract, the map reflects the opacity of someone trying to point you toward where stuff is. In spite of being a little indie game, Hyper Light Drifter has great ARPG-style character development as well. You can put your upgrade points toward either active upgrades or game-changing passives. These passives aren't so uselessly specific as to make you 10% less susceptible to poison on Saturdays. Each increases consumable capacity, from that of ammunition to that of stimpaks. Finally, as you can see, the visuals are stunning. To many players, the art pops with a wild color palette. What I enjoy most about it is how expressive it is in spite of its pixelated appearance. The raindrops look nice as they materialize above the top of the screen and appear to land on the ground. I like that I can watch clouds cast their shadows on the swamp area. There are so many juicy details to admire. And don't start me on the music. From ambient droning to catchy boss tunes, Disaster Piece knocks mood setting out of the park. A side note, everyone should watch It Follows, whose release preceded Hyper Light Drifters. He made all the music for that movie, and it's on Netflix among steaming piles of hot old vegetables. Sift through those creamy, mushy vegetables to watch it, and you'll be doing yourself a favor. Hyper Light Drifter's $20 on Steam. Your first playthrough will take about 7 hours. New Game Alt, an option to play the game as a character with greater offensive power and less defensive power, will take you about 4, and New Game Plus will take you about 5. As someone who's beaten the game without dying, I've logged 120 hours into it, and I hope you love it as much as I do. If I persuade you to put only one game on your bucket list, I hope it's Hyper Light Drifter.